Hello and welcome to Working with What You Got. I'm your host, Renee Joshua Porter, and I am so glad that you decided to tune in today. Remember, our show is all about you realizing that you have more than you think you have. You have more time, you have more talent, you have more food, you have more resources, you have more faith, you have more creativity, you have more energy, you have more people on your side. And it is time to unknot your mind. Well, we're going to start our show like we do every week, and we are going to cook. We just had Thanksgiving, and I was thinking about it. So many times we have leftovers. What about a very easy recipe for Thanksgiving leftovers? You want to see what we're going to do? In your Thanksgiving, you have mashed potatoes. Ba-bam. You have stuffing. Ba-bam. Can't have Thanksgiving without turkey unless you're a vegan and you do tofurkey. But this is regular old turkey. Leftover turkey. Maybe you're into veggies like we are. Here's some corn, some cut beans. And what's mashed potatoes without gravy? We're going to take all of that. We have a little bit of water in our pot. I'm going to put in my mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes. I had a song about mashed potatoes for my kids when they were little. I'm going to take my stuffing. You're like, what are you doing? Mashed potatoes and stuffing. Put them inside a little bit of water. And we're going to just mash it with the back of our spoon. How much mashed potatoes? Whatever you have. You have about 3 cups worth. That's about 3 cups of mashed potatoes. That's about 1.5 cups of stuffing. And we're putting it in here with the water. Going to put in a little bit more water. What are you doing, Renee? What are you doing? Mixing it together. What else are we doing? We're going to throw in our turkey. I happen to just like to put a little bone in there for flavor. So that's about 2 cups of our turkey shredded up. Stuffing, turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy. What are we doing? You're like, what's going on here? Is our pot out? Now, you know this is a working with what you got kitchen, so a lot of times we got to keep checking our power. All right, I think my pot's out. Tommy, you want to check it for me? We're going to put in 2 cups of water. Did you figure out what we're doing yet? Yes, right. We are making soup. A turkey soup out of all your leftovers. Tommy's checking for us. Mashed potatoes. Yeah, there we go. I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Tommy. Mashed potatoes, stuffing, turkey, gravy. And then finally, we're going to add in our veggies because we never want to overcook them because we're actually just reheating everything. The only other seasoning that I've added in when I've made it in the past is I put a little bit of sea salt. I put Bell seasoning. Now, Bell seasoning, that's what you use when you do your turkey during Thanksgiving. Put a little Bell seasoning in there, sea salt, and then we're going to taste it and see how we're doing. Can you see this? Tommy, can they see us? Look at that. Uh-oh, I'm spilling it. Beautiful. Milani, can you get me paper over there? I spilled some. It's live and unedited, babe. This is thebomb.com. Put a little bit more of the gravy. I'm just going to put a little bit more bell seasoning. Bell to me just screams turkey. Thank you, Milani. All right, we clean up our mess. Stir it some more. Now, I have some wonderful women in the studio with me today. They're moms and they're also educators. And because they're moms, I know they all have to cook, whether they want to or not. So I'm going to invite them in a minute to come over. What am I putting in? I'm going to put in a little bit of garlic powder, just a little kili, and a little kili of onion powder. And then our ladies are going to be our samplers. They're like, are you really putting stuffing and mashed potatoes in a soup? I can read your mind. I can see you thinking that. That's what Gina's saying. She's like, stuffing and mashed potatoes. Yeah, you are, right, Gina? I read your mind. Okay. Let me do my little tasting. I'm going to make you a believer, ladies. I'm going to make you a believer. I don't know why this keeps going out a little bit. All right. Come on over, ladies. This is Gina. Thanks. I'm going to give you a little bit. But you can't eat it yet. Just a little bit. Don't eat it yet because I want to tell you something that I use as a little crouton. I'm just giving you a little bit. So if you don't like it, you don't have to feel like you have to gag on a lot. Okay?
Thank you.
This is Gina, Linda, and Desiree. They're our panelists today. So now, you want me to tell you what I use as a crouton?
Sure.
Now, some people are not into sweet, but sometimes if you just put a little dried cranberries right there on the top, you get the sweet and savory together. All right, I'm ready. Dun 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 dun. Try it.
Delicious.
This is great.
It's good, right? All it is leftovers. I discovered it last Thanksgiving, not this Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving before. I had so many, I was like, I feel like soup. Boom, 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 voila. Mashed potatoes, stuffing, gravy, any vegetables that you have lying around, some water, and then this year I decided let's put a little dried cranberries just for a little sweet and savory.
And
Very
the dried
nice.
cranberry really does
definitely.
well with it.
Yeah, good. You know what I actually did before was I had cranberry sauce, and I had actually mixed the cranberry sauce in with it, and it just added a little sweetness to it.
Nice sweetness, yeah.
Yeah. So you like it?
Yes, it's very
Definitely.
good.
See, you have more than you think you have. That's 3 moms, and I got 3 thumbs up. So if I can do it, you can do it. Look at your circumstances from a whole different angle. Too many times we're thinking, I don't have it. I don't have anything to make. I'm tired of these leftovers. I don't know what to do. You can reinvent them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll be right back after this, and you're going to get a chance to listen to these brilliant women right after this. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tom Dow. We have a multidisciplinary practice in Melville and Ronkonkoma, New York, and we treat patients with many, many different conditions, from newborns through geriatric patients with numerous different techniques. There's a technique and a type of treatment for every class of patient. We have them all here. Here's my son Thomas, also a doctor of chiropractic, working on one of our patients' cervical spine. This patient has had chronic neck pain for many, many, many years, has been to a multitude of different practitioners with little or no response. And with our specialized techniques, she has improved tremendously and continues to improve on a daily basis. We have two practices, one in Melville and one in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are a multidiscipline chiropractic office. What that means is we have chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, psychologists, all working as a team and a network of outside professionals such as orthopedists and neurologists that we work hand in hand with to help determine what your injuries are and the best way to treat your injuries. I have the great pleasure of having my son in practice with me. We work hand in hand, father and son, to give our patients the best care possible, and a staff which is loving, caring, and you'll never have to wait at all in our office for service. Many times patients come into our office and they have what's called a soft tissue injury. Soft tissue injuries are like scars inside your body. If you've ever been cut on the outside of your body, you get a scar. The same thing happens inside of your body to your muscles and ligaments. So our job is to determine where those are, stretch the muscles, adjust the vertebra back into their correct position, and then refortify the normal structure with exercise. That's what we do best, and I hope someday you'll come see us at one of our two offices. Thank you.
All new equipment, all new sets, exciting new shows for 2015, only on MadhouseTV.com. 2015 is coming, and so are exciting new shows on Madhouse TV. We're pouring more into what makes us so fun and different. All new sets, all new equipment, and more to enhance your viewing experience. It's a brand new year. Watch what happens on Madhouse TV.
Yo, what's up, y'all? This is me, TMC, in the place to be, the greatest MC in history. There will never be an MC greater than me. And right about now, the only place for you to be is with your one and only Madhouse TV.
You are the man.
Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing. Proudly serving all of Long Island, we feature expert handling and 24/7 service. So send a limo for your toy with Kickstart Fabrications Motorcycle Towing.
Are you planning an event and want to include entertainment, but you're not sure where to turn?
Act1Entertainment.net has provided over 1,500 events with quality, affordable live entertainment at private parties, corporate affairs, festivals, bike rallies, and more. Act One will fit into your budget. They're friendly, reliable, and do all the legwork for you. They take all major credit cards. Log on to Act1Entertainment.net for a free, no-obligation price quote or call 631-758-3505 for a brochure.
You'll be happy you did.
Hi, we are back. I'm your host, Renee Joshua Porter, and you have tuned in to Working with What You Got. I have three lovely ladies here on my panel. I have Desiree Williams Wells. I have Linda Pugh and Gina Yotis. Did I pronounce it right, Gina?
Yes, you did.
Yes. And they are moms/educators. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell them what you do?
My name is Desiree Williams Wells. I was a chiropractor for 19 years in Amityville, and I started teaching in 2007. And I teach at North Babylon High School. I teach chemistry, Regents chemistry.
My name is Linda Pugh. I am a principal in Queens, New York, in District 29, in an elementary school, pre-K through 5. I've been in the field of education for 27 years. Prior to working in Queens, I was in Brooklyn for 15 years.
And as you said, I'm Gina Yotis, and I work at Upper and Christian School, K through 12. And I'm a college career guidance counselor, and I've also been in private practice for the last 6 years.
So they're qualified. That's what it basically says. They're qualified. All right, ladies, we want to talk. Share with our audience, first of all, some of the things. Tell us a nugget that you've learned from the classroom. I'll start with you, Linda. From years of education, whether in the classroom or as a principal, tell us a nugget, some tool that you learned in those years that you were able to use with your own children.
Well, I think one of the most important things that I have to do, whether it was when I was teaching, whether I was an assistant principal, and still while I'm a principal, is listen to my students. And I think listening to my students has helped me raise my children. And I have learned, since all of my children are in their early 20s, and my last one is in her late 20s now. Listening is so important, and not reacting. The way you think. Sometimes you think something might be a little bit shocking that you're hearing. But I think I've learned to just listen, try not to make any expressions, and
No expressions.
and then, yes, so that I can hear all of it, and then process it before I give an answer or give any advice.
That's a good nugget. I need that. I need that. Gina.
I have to agree with Linda that I've learned, and I continually learning, to step back and take a deep breath and really hear with what the student or the parent or my own child is trying to convey and why they're doing what they do. So then when I'm responding to that situation, I'm more apt to give a more conducive answer and respond correctly.
Okay, so Desiree, I'm going to come to you, but I'm going to add something onto your question. What I'm really hearing is a lot of self-control.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like removing that impulse to just get your point across or check the situation or rectify it.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree, how does a parent pull that in? Pull in that self-control, that delayed response?
It's not easy to do, but I think that when you realize that one of the biggest things that I had to do was to accept them for who they are, it makes you have to listen. Because in order to have the acceptance, you got to see where they're coming from. But once they realize that you've accepted them for who they are, your kids as well as your students, you can get so much more accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Accepting them for who they are, even if it doesn't match up to what is in your head,
right,
or what you desire. It's okay. There's no judgment.
especially when it doesn't match up.
Especially
That's when it's the most important. It's easy to be accepting when it matches what you believe. When it doesn't, it's a lot harder. But when you make that change and you're able to accept them, then you can take them a lot further.
Okay, so let's build on what Desiree said. Now, I know you guys said, Renee, don't throw me no questions that's not on the email. But Desiree brought up something, and I know that you guys can answer it. How do you accept them for who they are, and it's something that you don't like, that you think might be wrong, or you think it might be error? How do you not go into that automatic pilot of mom correction?
Well, I think going into that automatic pilot of mom correction will make it so that you may not be able to hear the whole story, and you can't forget that at one time you were also that age. Okay, maybe there were some things that maybe your parent may not have necessarily agreed with as well, and I just think it's so important to listen and not judge so quickly, so that you can help them process and make the right decision and make the right choice. Ultimately it is their decision in the end, especially if you're dealing with a young adult. But you want to make sure that you're listening and you're not ordering.
You're listening and you're not ordering. Gina, tell us some of the things that you think are you're a guidance counselor, so you're the confidant.
Yes.
You're the confidant. You hear a lot of stuff. What do you think are some areas that parents miss it? What do you think, listening to the kids, what do you think are some of the areas that we miss it?
Well, I think just even this question is one area. We're kind of relate, if we want to protect them, we want to love them, and then we forget that how it felt when we were that age. So sometimes that, again, backing off a little and assessing the situation and maybe saying, okay, I really hear what you're saying. So that might be our way of almost diffusing our own emotions by saying, okay, I hear what you're saying, and then say, well, maybe I would do it, and give them some choices. So this way we're kind of creating a dialogue with the student or the child. I know Linda and Desiree have older children too, biological children, because they all seem to be our children when we're educators. And I think that different ages, we may say that in different ways, but I think it's just relating correctly and on the different levels for the different age groups. But definitely get dialoguing and saying, I'm hearing you.
You said that word twice, and as you said that word, dialogue, I thought about there's times where, I have 3 kids, and they have a lot of opinion. It's the quietest one is the eldest, but still she's full of opinion. So they have a lot of opinion. And sometimes they can go on a roll with, trying to get their point across. And sometimes I will say, this is the time for my monologue. This is not the time for your dialogue, right? You just have to sit and listen to my monologue, So when you say in dialogue, I'm thinking about, that thing where, we kind of grew up and you heard, don't talk back and, all those type of rigid things that our parents, and we try not to be like that. We want to give our kids more flexibility, but then you don't want to swing the pendulum too far where you feel like they're ordering you around. So finding that balance, how do you find the balance? You have leaders, Desiree.
Yeah, I believe that you have to allow them to discover. Most children and adults are not going to listen when told, but they'll listen to themselves. So if you guide them in a way that they can discover what's right or what they should do in the situation, they're more likely to do it and do it again and hold on to it. But sometimes there's a lot of miscommunication between people. So when you're listening to them and giving them the opportunity to talk, then comes the time for questions. I don't talk. I'm just going to ask you questions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to ask you questions. And my students and my children have come to, I don't know if they appreciate it, but they tolerate it because I need them to come to their own decisions.
That was a really good point. That was a nugget. You said most people don't listen when told, but they'll listen
Yeah.
to themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I guess when they discover it on their own. Anything you want to add to that, Linda?
Well, I think I'm in an elementary school.
Yes.
So, a lot of times students come to my office to tell me who's not listening to them. Whether another student is not listening to them, or the teacher is not listening to them, or no one's listening to their opinion. So and a lot of times they'll come to my office and they're extremely angry. So I already have to be in a position to kind of try to, relax
it.
them and diffuse the situation. But I usually use some type of literature also to help, everyone see the point. I'll use either some type of a resource, whether it's data, in terms of their academics or their test scores. Sometimes I just go through everything with them, or because they might not understand why they are, they have detention, or this is happening, or they have this particular consequence. Or they're just angry because they can't get along with someone, then I'll use some type of a literature. But I really try to just go through each step by step by step, and then, like Desiree said, let them come up with some types of conclusions, based on...
Hold that thought 1 second. Now, this is live TV. So I just want them to know that the soup is burning, and they're having a conversation while the stove is burning. So if Milani, you and Tom, can you just please turn that burning soup off? Thanks so much. Continue.
So actually, one of the books that we're doing for this particular couple of weeks is it's about now I'm getting a freeze on what the name of the book is, but it's about bucket filling.
What is
I'm sure we know the book, right? It's how to fill. It's how to be a bucket fuller for children. And I know that's not exactly the title, but for the moment.
Bucket filling.
Yes.
Explain that.
Okay. It's my students seem like they've had a lot of controversy lately, and so the book is telling you how to fill someone else's bucket by, being kinder. Okay, being more patient.
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to being a bucket dipper, okay, where you're dipping into someone else's bucket, okay, with your negative attitude. Okay, so actually for the next few weeks, we're going to be referring to this particular book and trying to become models, whether it's an adult model that's being a bucket filler, okay, especially in this holiday season, okay, not to be dipping in anyone's bucket, okay, just to be adding something positive.
I love it.
Oh, I like that.
And I like that. I like that expression, a bucket filler.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so Gina, let me ask you, is there anything as parents that we should start being more concerned about? Anything that's going under our radar that we're not realizing? Right now, a current trend, and I want you two to think about it too. Now, I know you're dealing with the elementary school, but that's a real critical time, right? So is there anything that you think that's going under the radar that parents are not aware of in this time?
I don't see anything. Well, maybe I see it from a different perspective as a parent because I'm always talking to different educators, so I always see what's going on. I don't see anything other than like the technology. To me, that's difficult monitoring that in my students. I really think the best thing, going back to what we were talking about, is, like I said, the dialogue, but even dialoguing with our students and hearing them what they have to say back to us. And also, not to change the subject of the question, but how you were talking about monologue, when is our chance to start making time, making appointments to talk to our children so that we could actually say to them, I just want to say a few things. So if you could let me talk, and then I'll hear you.
Yeah.
So that's our time to monologue. And if we're in a frustrating state, or they're in a frustrating state, because I really do feel, I don't know if it's a trend, but I feel that that this generation, the high school students, the LS, they're very, very frustrated. So I don't know if that's a trend, but I see it's like they're angry. So to kind of really make appointments to hear what the students or your children are saying. And if they seem angry, to say, you know what, we don't have to talk about it now, but maybe we can make an appointment to discuss that.
Now, I think that's an excellent point you brought up about the anger. I think that they're very frustrated and they're angry, but I see a lot of angry adults.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I really think that is a trend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you go into the store, you know, most people seem to be ticked off. And sometimes it's not even 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, they start their day angry.
Right.
You know, so I think it's become a habit among the children too. So what do you had something you wanted to add to that, Desiree?
Yeah, I find that the students are under a lot of stress. I've had, over the years, students would come to me and say, you know, Dr. Williams, I really don't know what I want to do. I really don't want to go to college. And you know, it's, when they come to me and say that, I have to think about, okay, now what would I want my child's teacher to say to that? And, you know, I ask them questions. Why don't you want to go to college? What do you want to do? And it usually goes back to, well, my parents want me to go to college, but I think I'd rather do this. They're under a lot of pressure to do well and to do what their parents expect them to do. At the same time, being frustrated with school. Why do I have to take chemistry? Why do I have to take Algebra 2 Trig? When am I going to use that? How is it important in my life? So I think that pressure adds to what they're able to accomplish, and we have to recognize that so that we can help them through it.
Okay, so now Desiree, are you okay with your children, your birth children, coming to you and saying, I'm not going to college, I don't want to go to college?
When I realized the amount of stress that I saw students under, actually before I started teaching, I said to my kids, you don't have to go to college. And it was hard to say that. But I said, you don't have to go to college, but you have to have a plan. I said, you need to give me a plan, a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan of what you're going to do when you finish high school.
How do you feel about that, Linda? Because all your kids went to college.
Yes. and for one, it was a little bit of a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my oldest daughter, you know, she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. But although I try to be a good listener and I try to be patient, since she had already completed 2 years and then she wanted to flip-flop and do something else, actually, you know, I had to say that, no, you are going to finish this. You know, you are going to finish this. You know, even though she was like, you can't really say that I have to finish something that, you know, I'm not sure if I want to do. I said, well, actually, you are going to finish this because you're asking me to also pay for the next thing that you want to do. Okay? So really, you know, we're going to finish this first, and then you're going to, then we'll talk about the next thing you want to do. So I know that, you know, parents have mixed feelings about that type of a strong line, but at the end of the day, when she did graduate from college, out of the three children that I have, she was the only one that cried at her graduation. Mm-hmm. And so when I hugged her after the graduation, I said, why are you crying? And she said, I just didn't think I could do it. And now you know, she's gone on and she's in graduate school now. So, you know, sometimes I guess it depends on your child. You have to know your child. You just have to know, you know, whether you think they're quitting something just because they want to quit something,
Definitely.
or because you really think that, you know, maybe that's not for them.
And
Yeah.
at the same time, when I was telling my kids this, they were elementary school. So at the same time, I'm telling them this, and I'm telling them, and when you go to college, you can do. So I wanted them to feel like they had options. I didn't want them to feel like they had one direction. Of course, it was a little heavy on the college side, but I did want them.
Because both you and your husband are educators.
Yes, yes. So I did want them to feel like they had the option, because again, I want them to hear me. And if they feel like they have options, they'll hear me.
Now, I know you're dealing with a different dynamic, Gina. What do you feel like as far as, your kids in college, and what do you think?
Well, I have 5 children, so it's not one size fits all in my house.
Yeah.
But I noticed that just on the line at the store, even I went to Staples to scan his picture for his ACT, and we were talking about college, and they were like, the parents were saying, "Oh my God, college is so expensive," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing this show this weekend. You should tune in. We may be talking about that," and so I'm so excited that this did come up because there is, I'm hoping, more of a trend towards technical training.
Yes.
Because right here on Long Island, Suffolk Community College just received several years ago a very big grant to start a more technical trade school. I think they always had it, but they upgraded it. So that's the machinists, the welding, there's carpentry, there's HVAC. I know they're even adding some marine biology disciplines there that are very conducive to what's going on Long Island and the industries that we need here. So students could go to BOCES. We have Eastern, Western, and Nassau BOCES that have medical technician certificates, 2-year associate programs. There's just such fabulous, we would call them years ago, blue-collar workers. And I think that if we start again, like when we were going to high school, giving them those options and introducing them to our students and our children. Because I know my children, one of my 5 is going to be going that route. And it's so exciting. And there's apprentice programs. We have unions, the electrical union that they could get right here on Long Island. So we have this other whole option to post-secondary education that may be the right fit for different students.
Right.
So I really think that the economical frustration may be a little diminished if people make different choices to that.
That's an excellent point. We have to take a commercial, but we'll be right back after this.
Okay.
My name is Dr. Robert Brevard. I'm here for Multi-Medicine in Westbury, New York. We're located at 1065 Old Country Road, Suite 214. Been here for about 15 years. The practice has medical doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, acupuncturists. We also do pain management, and we have orthopedists on staff. Here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, we've got physical therapists on staff who treat an array of conditions, from neck pain to back pain, shoulder pain. We treat carpal tunnel. We treat a lot of car accident patients, slip and falls. We treat patients with knee injuries, with ankle injuries. We have state-of-the-art equipment. We've been here for over 15 years. Vast array of diagnostic testing, from x-rays to EMGs. What is an EMG? It's a diagnostic test that allows a doctor to determine where the pinched nerve is. Cora is a physical therapist at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. She's working on Stephanie, who was involved recently in an automobile accident. Stephanie has tight thoracic and cervical musculature, and Cora is doing some myofascial release work and some therapeutic stretching, doing it to help her with her pain. Vicky is also a patient here at Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation. Vicky is now working her leg muscles, specifically her quadricep muscles, trying to strengthen them after an injury she sustained. If you find yourself in need of any type of physical therapy, please don't hesitate to call Advanced Multi-Medicine and Rehabilitation, located in Westbury, New York, in Suite 214. Phone number is 516-334-7000, or find us on our website at advancedmultimedicine.com.
I am Tom Mealy for the Harrison Law Group, and I have been telling you for years that getting involved in an automobile accident is no joke. This is what we do. We're not new at this game. If you've been involved in an accident of any kind, and you go to a law firm that says you have no case, it's simple. It's because they can't do it and they don't get it. You need to call us directly at 1-800-INJURY-LAW.
Hi, we're back. I'm your host, Renee Joshua Porter, and you've tuned in to Working with What You Got. I have our panelists here. We have 3 parents that are also educators, Desiree Williams-Wells, Linda Pugh, and Gina Yotis. And before we went to our break, Gina brought up an excellent point about how there are different routes besides just college for our youngsters. And a lot of times the stress would be relieved if we understood there were other options. Because sometimes economically, you maybe can't afford college. So now what? You want to just continue what you were saying, Gina?
Well, I was alluding to the fact that we definitely have to maybe even go to the public libraries. There's great college and extracurricular activities there for students that they could even explore different career options. Some libraries actually have career centers in them, so they could go there and see what is available in my area. What can I dabble into to see what I want to do as a career?
So basically, I just want to make sure I'm recapping what you said. We're not ill-equipping our children by saying to them, maybe college is, if you don't want to go to college, it's okay. Like Desiree said, but what's your plan?
Exactly. I have to agree with Desiree. There is a plan, but everybody's plan of action doesn't have to be that 4-year college experience.
Wow, so it's not okay to say you have to go to college. If you don't want to go to college, it's fine, but you can't be here. I'm just teasing. All right. You're like, what? All right. Okay. All right. That's good. That's a good nugget. Okay, so let me ask you something else. Let's talk about the teacher-parent relationship. How have you found that? Just think about in your careers, what are some of the, only word I can use, are flagrant fouls that you think parents do when dealing with teachers? You know,
today I think it's assuming that the teacher is out to harm the student or does not have the student's best interest at heart. One of the things that I do every year is I contact my parents as soon as I get the email addresses. I start contacting them, letting them know what's going on in the classroom, letting them know who I am, letting them know upcoming tests. And although my students, most of them are juniors, and at that point they should be able to function on their own, I find that the parents, it sort of sets them at ease because it makes them feel like they're part of it. It makes them feel like they're in the classroom, and then they're more comfortable contacting me instead of going to the principal about a problem. And so I found that a regular communication before anything happens in the classroom works very well to end some of that.
Okay. Anybody want to add anything else?
I think sometimes I know some of the parents are very frustrated. They're working very hard. They have, long hours. But I think sometimes in some cases, they could put in a little bit more quality time. And, because sometimes when issues are brought up about what may be going on, their answer sometimes is, yeah, I know, I can't do anything about it either. Yes. So, that's but my hand's up. My hands are up. I don't know. Maybe you can handle it.
So they pass the buck.
Yeah. And we try to work with them so that we can be more of a partnership.
Yes.
But, in some cases, they're just not sure what to do, and they just, well, I have the same problem you have.
I often share with my parents things that I've done with my children. Because my children right now, my oldest is 19, and my middle child is 17, and my youngest is 13. So the 17-year-old is pretty much the same age as most of my students. And so when I have a child that's not doing well, and I'll tell them, I said, well, this is what I did with my son when I had that problem. And I think it also helps them to realize that I understand what you're going through. I've been there.
Okay.
And we can do this together.
The personal reference. How about you, Gina? Something that you see the parents do that is just, really not a wise choice.
I think that they need to, especially with social media and where I know at our school and both where my children go to school and the school I work at, we use social media. We use something called RenWeb that we could stay in communication with the parents. And I know at my school district, they're emailing me. I think what's not a good thing that they're doing is they should check those emails. They should check if their school uses Naviance or the RenWeb, or that we have your email. Like, take advantage of that, because I think that, as educators, we're making an effort to do that, to notify them. So regularly check that. I think that's really, the students that I work with and the parents, they're usually in a place of that they want to work it out. So I don't really have that problem, but when I do, it's because they're not checking up too. If they have this resource, it's in their best interest to check.
That's an excellent point. And it really kind of pulls into what everyone has said. So the resources are there. You have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And you can't pass the buck.
Yeah, and communication is a two-way street.
You have to. And a lot of times there are some parents that may feel that they're not, really savvy when it comes to computers, or maybe they feel like they're not savvy with parenting skills. But the bottom line is you have to move past. Oh, we have a call. All right, hold on. Hello. Thank you for calling. Caller, are you there?
Hi, is this Renee?
Yes.
Hi, Renee. My name is Keith. I live in Queens, and I'm calling. I'm watching your show. I've watched it many times with my wife, and she enjoys your cooking segments.
Okay, thank you,
And
Keith.
we were just watching the show, and I'm very impressed with the three beautiful ladies you have on the set. And I was just wondering, because nowadays I have a bunch of grandsons, and I was curious to know if any of the ladies would have any idea of, there is a big gang problem on Long Island and in the city and New York and everywhere else in the country. And I was wondering, what advice would the ladies give in helping a parent or grandparent keeping the kids from being either intimidated by the gangs or being forced into the gangs, or just even dealing with them on a daily basis in the school with the bullying and everything else. I mean, it seems to be epidemic out in the country now, and I think everybody's got to come up with some answers. So I'm kind of reaching out to you people and see if you can give us a little advice on maybe how to deal with this.
Ladies, anybody want to start?
Well, I'll start with that, if that's okay.
Yes.
One thing is that I think that we as parents need to stay involved with our children and I know that's so hard. Having 5 kids and working hard and the commuting is so hard to do that, but to somehow, even if we just get involved with one thing or set some kind of personal goal to show our face on at some school functions, I think that's important. And to encourage our students and our children to get involved with the different clubs and organizations in the community and the school. With that being said, I'm sure a lot of parents are saying, oh, that sounds really good. How do I find out about those activities? And I would think right here on Long Island we have the Suffolk Youth Bureau, and we could actually go online to suffolkcountyny.gov and scroll down to Youth Bureau, and they have myriads and reams of different agencies to do this, for homework help, for our students, intramural activities, emotional help, and as well as for kids with physical disabilities. So there are things out there, but we have to do our homework. But I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that you guys, being in a different venues, can add to that.
What do you think, Linda?
I say one of the things that we're starting to do in our school is try to, just to piggyback on what you said, to try to keep them involved in different things. And, we're starting different music programs and different engineering programs early on in a young ages, so that they can, put a lot of energy into those things. And then they'll be able to be in competitions and things that are events that are related to those. And to make sure that you get back to what we said earlier, was just listening. Listening. Sometimes they feel like they want to join something because no one's listening. And we just have to sit down and take the time and listen to what they're talking about and listen to what their problems are, because they think that the adults are not listening.
Tommy?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I do have these kids involved in Little League, in football, in basketball, in all the programs and that's a safe haven, and even that isn't always a safe haven, but that's the safest they're going to get. But I would like to ask the guidance counselor, because while they are on these programs, and I do appreciate the advice, and I agree with you, because I am very involved with that stuff, and I do believe in it, and I wish more people would actually help out and join in and get against this stuff. But my question is to the guidance counselor, being that you must see this going on in school. My advice, well, not my advice, my question is, away from the safe havens of Little League or any of these programs, after-school programs and that, which are marvelous, and thank God that we have them. But in reality, when they go into the school, the safe haven is gone, and I know that a lot of kids are intimidated. They're afraid to come to you. Do you find that an issue in your school, that the kids are afraid to even come to you to ask for help because of what might happen to them? Because I would think that's going on all the time.
In my school, I work in a private school, and that isn't problematic in our school. In my private practice, when I worked in a private practice, there were times that the students did express fear, and then we worked with the school. But at that point, the student was reaching out. Like, the parent was aware something's going on, so they brought them to talk to me in my practice, and we were able to uncover the root of the problem and then address it with the school. But I don't directly have that problem in my school. I don't know, do you as a principal have that problem in your school?
From time to time, we do have students who, have some affiliation, and but most of the time the students that are not actually the ones that are involved are the ones that come to tell it. And that kind
What
of...
I would like to see, I mean, and this is only my opinion, but what I would love to see the schools adopt some kind of safe haven for the kids, where there's no way that these other kids could find out, if they are being bullied, that they won't get the repercussions of, ratting out. Not that they're ratting out, they're trying to probably save their lives or protect themselves, but I believe that these schools should maybe have some kind of thing that they can call where no one knows, and then the teachers or whoever, guidance counselors or principals, whoever, could deal with the kids that are bullying without the connection to the kid that's being bullied. I think that maybe a safe house within the school or something, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much, caller. I don't mean to cut you, but that was a great question. We're going to ask our panelists just to give a final thought on it. But definitely you can be able to reach us via our Facebook page, Working With What You Got, and we can continue the discussion, or you can even email us. But thank you so much.
I'm already there. Thank you so much, Renee. I love your show. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Keith.
I just wanted to end that by saying that just the person that actually comes to tell it sometimes, okay, they want to be anonymous, Okay, they may be saying something that they know that someone may be involved in something, but they also want to be anonymous. So in my case, what we usually do, we do have resources to reach out to. We do have youth officers that work very closely with us that are willing to come in. We do programs, we do assembly programs, and we do try to set up things where the children feel safe enough and to want to talk to us about it.
I want to just say something that I found to be helpful, and you can definitely, you guys are the professionals, you tell me what you think. I found one-on-one time with your children really does work. Right. Even if you have 3 children, you have 5 children, I have found that I make time for each one of them. Mm-hmm. And it can just be simple as taking them one to Waldbaum's with me. Maybe all 3 want to come. No, I'm only taking Milani. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I'm running over to Home Depot. No, I'm just taking Julian. Mm-hmm. And that one-on-one time, and I actually feel like it works better with boys. Mm-hmm. Because I find, I don't know, you have sons, daughters, or whatever, but I find like the girls spew. You know what happened? For the most part, they're more prone to tell. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some girls that are quieter, but for the most part, they're a little prodding, the dam breaks, But we find with boys, everything's fine. Mm-hmm. Especially if they're dealing with the bullying or they're dealing with gang, you're not going to find them readily saying that they're fearful.
Right.
But I find that what I've done is I just spend that one-on-one time, or, I'm pulling them, or I'm laying on their bed, and I just ask a question, a series of questions. Sometimes I make up loaded stuff and act like I know. A lot of times I act like I know when I don't know anything, right? But it works. I mean, what do you think as far as that? How do you feel?
I think that I agree with that. That it's good moments, and I think the audience should know this. It doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing that we're spending money and taking them to this event. That we could redeem sometimes, like the rides to the stores and everything. And I find like that's the best talking that I have with my sons, especially.
So with that being said, what about the technology where they're so engrossed in their phone when they're in the car, or they're so engrossed in their iPad, and that, the communication is not happening? I'm finding that the communication is breaking down so much, because then the parents are even as engrossed as the kids. So everyone is I have a friend, she calls it cocooning. She said everyone's cocooning. That's a good word for it. What do you think? What do we do as educators? Do you find that the kids are really lacking even in social skills or interpersonal skills behind that? And what can we do?
I definitely think they're lacking because they're so used to texting, and it's causing them to become antisocial in elementary school. Yeah. But what we try to do is, make sure that we're setting up activities that are project-based, especially with the STEM and the engineering, so that they have to work together as a team to complete the task.
And I think that working together as a team is very important, because I carry that into the classroom as well, because when they're working in teams, because the classroom is a team too, and I make sure that it's that they understand that we're doing this together, but they don't have as much time. What happens in a classroom when you have 24 to 30 students sitting there and they all have their phones, if anything does not catch their interest at that moment, out comes the phone. And they're on the phone. But then if you're working in a team and everybody has a role in that team, in that group, then there's not as much time for that to happen. It still happens, but it's not as easy for it to happen.
Gina, you want to
about the phone thing? Yeah. That's something we're dealing at our house, so I'm listening to these experts over here. One of my children, that's what we're going through. That phone is a toughie. I feel like putting it on the kitchen table for a certain amount of time. I bought this beautiful bowl, and I put it on the dining room table. I said, when we're doing certain things, you put it in this beautiful bowl. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't work either. So, I think it's just, it's the times. So we have to use whatever it takes. We cannot give up on our kids. And we have to try. Yeah. If some kids, it's a bowl. If some kids, it's, some kids, it's okay, can we just set a timer that you're not on it? But I think that we have to just have different conversations like these panels to get strategize.
I love what you said. I love that. That is so important. We can't give up. We can't give up. We've already seen the product of adults that we know somebody gave up on them. Right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
We've seen the carnage, right? We've
Yes.
seen it. And we said somebody dropped the ball. So we can't give up, even though it's a tough job.
Right.
I mean, you know firsthand, it's a tough job. It can be quite frustrating, but the rewards are great if you don't give up. Right? Well, they're telling me we have to wrap up, and I just want to close by saying and just encouraging you. I don't know where you are out there. I don't know if you're close to your kids or you're not close to your kids, but you have more than you think you have. You have more strategies. You have more resources. You have more help. You have more assistance. You have more intuition. You have more listening skills. You have more attentiveness. Don't give up. You need to know there is an enemy out there. That enemy wants you to think that you're hopeless, wants you to think that your kids won't amount to anything, and wants you to parent through fear. But no, you have to parent through the eyes of love and hope. And remember, free your mind and the rest will follow. Thank you so much for tuning in and hope to see you next week.